What is Columbia Sportswear's logo but the canted swastika? Right? This is just, it's constant. You can't escape it once you see it. Now, that canted square that we see, all right, first of all, we had Hitler's logo, the VW, and that was his war machine. And this, the two V's interlaced being the number of the dark side, making also a third V by interlacing them, making 666, which is the exact same symbol you'll see of a picture of W standing in front of the Woodrow Wilson Science Center. You know, the Woodrow Wilson WVV, exactly the same. And all of these equal 666. Now, if we get to CERN's logo, their logo is 666. We get to Conoco's symbol, it deciphers as 666. And these things, you know, they surprise me as much as anybody. I don't know what to think about it. I mean, I have some ideas, but it's amazing to see how blatant it is once you have the key. It's all so right in front of us.
And it just goes to prove that the large majority of the population, Freeman, is literally dumbed down, hypnotized, mesmerized, and they go through their entire life never seeing this stuff.
No.
Because they never look.
And it's amazing. I was living in a little town in Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas, where KU is. And there's a huge Masonic temple there. It has large Egyptian columns, big golden blazing compass square and G on it, right smack dab in the middle of downtown. You can't miss it. Big pentagram on the roof. And I would say to people that live there all their lives, like, well, you know the Egyptian temple downtown. They're like, there's no Egyptian temple downtown. I'm like, sure there is. It's right there, right in the middle of downtown. And then the next day they're like, oh, my God, why didn't I ever see this? And so it's not being programmed into us. It's not put into our consciousness, and we can walk right past it and never even notice that there's a giant Egyptian temple in the middle of your town.
Right, and we don't see unless we know what to look for, and this is done deliberately. And we'll notice, you know, and I've seen this once I was made privy to what to look for. But you know, they give that sign. What is it? The Longhorn sign, but it's really a Luciferian sign. And you see Hillary Clinton give it. You see Bill Clinton give it. You see George Bush give it. And unless you know what it is, you don't know what they're flashing. And when George Bush is behind a podium, I will know. You know, I notice before I threw my TV out that he will flash a sign to Hillary Clinton, and he has this Cheshire cat smirk on his face, after he had just finished spewing forth yet another lie for the American people to buy it. And this goes on right under our nose, and we never even see it because we don't know what we're looking for. Absolutely, and they're so deceptive. Consider that Walt Disney was a Freemason, high-level Freemason from Missouri. And he was hired by J. Edgar Hoover, who is a 33rd degree Freemason and has his own room in the Temple of the 33rd. I've been there. I played with his gold-plated phone. But so Walt Disney was hired by J. Edgar Hoover to instill mind programming into the children because they knew how well his cartoons were doing in programming children. And they knew also that he was, most likely a pedophile. All of his... you're going to find that this really gets into satanic ritual abuse, pedophilia, and some horrible topics. But here's this man who's been given this identity that's like godlike. He's the next thing to Christ, right? Walt Disney, if you go to Walt Disney World, you'll find that it's nothing but a military-industrial complex. Every ride, Exxon has a ride. My dad built nuclear missiles for Martin Marietta. They have a ride. You know what I mean? Well, that's the Epcot Center, right? I've been there. I've been to Epcot Center. The entire Disney, every ride is sponsored by a Masonic military corporate fascist regime. And that's all you're sponsoring when you go to Walt Disney. But now Walt Disney was putting out films to program minds, and he came out with the Sons of Liberty, which was all about the Boston Tea Party. Well, the parts that they leave out are what's critical, and what they left out was that all those people that threw the tea in the harbor were Freemasons. And so they practice and they promote Freemasonic worship to us, as House Resolution 33 is saying, accept it. We're having Freemason Day. They're great guys. And so here was Disney programming this into us with the Sons of Liberty, and Liberty, of course, is Columbia, so we're back to the Sons of Columbia, who are the Freemasons. But it's coded so that when the children watch it, they just think, oh, look at these great men. And so, of course, we've got George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Paul Revere, Alexander Hamilton, Patrick Henry, all Freemasons. Now, why is this important? Well, these guys are doing secret rituals, and they have secret knowledge.
That's what a secret society is for, right?
Well, okay, now let me interject something here. So they're doing these secret rituals, and they have secret knowledge, which I understand goes way back into the ancient times. They have a lot of knowledge that we don't have, and it's highly protected, from my understanding. But evidently there's different factions of these. For example, Skull and Bones. Now I've heard some of the rituals that go on in Skull and Bones, and I've also heard that it's even worse than what I had thought it was. Where they're lying in a coffin telling all their sex secrets while they're doing whatever they're doing with their member. Now, I've heard it's even worse than that, but is that not a faction of what you're saying? I mean, the Skull and Bones and a number of these other secret societies are all participating in this, or is that a different thing?
Yes, no, they're all different levels of the same thing. You would consider the Skull and Bones like the SS of the Nazis.
Okay.
And as we know, the Nazis all came over here and started NASA, and we can get into the Columbia endeavor for the discovery of Atlantis, which, of course, are our space shuttle titles.
Well, okay, and yes, a friend of mine, Don Nikoloff, has gone back and done some extensive research on the Bush regime themselves, and he has found through his documentation, which is pretty well documented, that these people were or are actually Nazis, going back into his father, grandfather, Prescott Bush, and so forth, and they were, prosecuted under trading with the enemy back in World War II with the Union Bank, Brown Brothers Harriman. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Yeah. I don't mean to get you off topic.
Oh, no, that's fine. And we'll find that, of course, Hitler was raised by the Thule Society. Mm-hmm. Some people pronounce it Thule. This occult society that was channeling extra-dimensional beings and bringing them, and what they do is they incarnate these into beings. And so they go through ritual abuse and to instill a soul or an extra entity, an astral entity, into a body. And many people will say that Hitler was possessed and that he was a completely different man on stage than off. Right?
Yeah, no, I'm fascinated with this because this gets into metaphysics. Are you talking about incarnates like in a metaphysical consciousness state?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
okay.
Well, this also comes into physics because now we have CERN trying to bust through into that other dimension.
Well, and I'm thinking we're going to get into that today with the CERN.
Definitely.
Okay. Now, let me stop you there. Before we go any further, a couple things I want to say. I've already got callers calling in saying, are you taking calls? Are you taking calls? My board operator is asking me. Now, I can go either way with this. I don't know how many topics you want to cover or whether you want to take calls, so I'm going to leave that up to you. If you want to take calls, we'll start it at any time you want. If you'd rather just go on with your topics, then we'll do that, and I'll have you up again. I'll give you the football on that. Which way do you want to go?
Sure thing. I love calls. We do have a lot to say, so hopefully we'll keep them short because we need to get to the Vatican admitting that there's aliens, and we got to get to CERN. We can't skip those.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Let's figure on possibly opening up the phone lines at the bottom of the next hour. Now, there's one other interjection I want to make. I've already had a caller call in and ask if you know anything about this situation that happened in Texas where these kids, I guess, went and dug up a grave not long ago, and they cut off the head of the corpse, and they used the skull for a bong. Are you familiar with that?
Really, no.
Okay, and the caller that called in said the significance of this is that the kid, the grave that they dug up, the kid was born in 1910. He died in 1921. Okay, he lived 11 years, and he died on September 11th. Now, I don't know, there's some significance, is what the caller was saying, is to the 11 in that, but my board operator didn't get that. Is there some significance, numerology speaking, to the number 11?
Yes. Well, let's look at okay, so now what we're defining here is Freemasonry and their secrets. And their secrets all lie within Kabbalism. Now, Kabbalism is an ancient Hebrew mysticism. And it has been actually passed down from the Egyptians and probably back to Atlantis, but we have it at least from the Egyptians through the Hebrews and up till the Freemasons. And it is admitted 70 times in Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike that Freemasonry is Kabbalism. So we're clear on that.